Greetings, you're listening to Draws in Spanish. If this is your first time listening, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Fabiola. I'm a Chilean American illustrator and podcaster based in Philadelphia. And on this show, I chat with Latinx visual artists and designers to discuss everything from their identity and culture to their creative work and process. A quick reminder that today's episode of Draws in Spanish is also available on YouTube as a video podcast. So if you want to watch us talk today instead of just listening, be sure to check out my YouTube channel at Fabiolita Draws or click the link in the show notes right on your podcast app. I'll see you over there. Now, today I'm chatting with Chilean motion graphic designer and illustrator Cristobal Saez. Cristo was raised in Chile and eventually made his way to New York City to attend FIT, where he studied graphic design. From there, he quickly realized that branding and logo work maybe wasn't for him and started creating illustrated GIFs of pop culture moments over on Tumblr on his off time, and that really led him to his career today. So through this work of creating digital fan art, he was able to land a role at a record label creating content, and now he works at Universal producing visual content for artists such as Beyonce, Adele, and Lil Nas X. On top of all of this, he's now experimenting with 3D work, which you can check out on his Instagram, which it's beautiful and hilarious and just so fun. So be sure to check that out. Now keep on listening to hear us talk about why he chose to move to the US, his experience creating a viral fan art, and his advice for breaking into the music industry today. Okay, let's get into today's show. Hey, Cristo, welcome to Draws in Spanish. I'm so happy to have you on the show. Thanks for agreeing to be here. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing really well today. I'm excited to be talking to you today.
Ooh, I have so many questions for you. I'm very, very excited to, quote, pick your brain. And it's always really nice to have another Chilean person on the show. It's very rare. There's not, I haven't come across too many established Chilean artists to bring on the show. So it's always really exciting to have another one. So, chi.
Le. I was waiting for that, actually.
Okay, enough nationalism. Okay, so Cristo, one of the first places I ran into your work was actually, if I remember correctly, Tumblr, right? Because I remember I was interning a bit for the creators team. I think you were working with them a lot at the time, or in this couple of years of creators. It's a bit of a blur. And you were working under the name Pop Aesthete. Am I correct?
Yeah, and thank you for saying it correctly. It's no longer my name because it was so hard to say, and it was just annoying to be people being pop it, and then they just couldn't say it, and I'd just be what?
They couldn't say it?
Yeah.
Sounds like they were being lazy.
Yeah, it's all Google away, but It is what it is. But yeah, that makes sense. I kind of blew up on Tumblr because I was making these it's fan art. I was making a lot of fan art and GIF art a lot. And yeah, I did some work with creators, and I was on what was it called? The Discover thing?
Tumblr Spotlight. Yes.
Yeah, I was on the Spotlight a few times. Yeah, I have really good memories of my Tumblr days.
Oh, I love it. I want to talk a lot more about your Tumblr era, right? Because you were big on Tumblr. But first, before we get into all of that, tell me a little bit more about Cristo in general before the creative stuff popped off. So tell me about your life in Chile. I know you were born and raised there, so give me a little bit more insight.
Yeah, I actually was not born there. I was born in I was born in Falls Church. So outskirts of DC, actually.
What?
Yeah.
Shocking.
But yeah, we my family and I moved around a lot. So I was only there for a year, and then after that I was in Colombia, Bogota, Colombia, for until I was 7, and then I moved to Chile. So I'm But I'm 100% Chilean. My whole family is Chilean. We just like moved around a lot.
Yes, yes, yeah, because you have that everywhere. So I'm like, it's not on me, right? Like you're not putting Colombian or like DC born anywhere or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like details. I mean, I'm like very Chilean, and I do consider myself that like I grew up in Santiago, so like yeah, it's just easier.
It makes a lot of sense. So, moving around a lot and stuff. So you were born in the U.S. So you had American nationality, which is amazing. Did your family as well?
So I'm the sixth in my family. We're a pretty big family, so and we have like a little like we're mostly Chilean. Me and my other brother Sebastian are American. And then I have one brother that was born in Colombia. So that's the mix.
Ooh. And can I ask why you guys were moving so much?
Yeah, it was my dad's job. My dad's a lawyer, and we moved around a lot because of that.
Nice. Makes a lot of sense. No, I just like to get like all the little insights because it can be such a mystery sometimes. You're just like, wait, what do you mean? How is this all working? Especially when you have had a life where you've moved around in a lot of different places. So it's always like, I'm sure that there's people listening who are like, how is he doing that? Because there are people who want to move and can't by for a million different reasons. So
Yeah, I mean, I will say like being a US citizen kind of made moving back here kind of a no-brainer for me. Like it was just like, oh, like yeah, I'm so I went to high school I graduated high school in Santiago, and I it was pretty clear to me that I wanted to be in something creative. I have always been obsessed with cover art, like album art, and I like had a dream of like being an art director for a record label, and that was kind of like
in high
what,
school?
yeah, yeah,
Wow, I love
yeah,
that. Okay,
yeah.
okay. I wasn't like even
Uh,
aware that was an option. I was like, I don't know. I don't know who's making that stuff.
oh, I was like deep into that like world of like who's making the cover art. Like I was just always so obsessed with it.
Give me one that you were really obsessed with. Do
Well,
you remember? I feel like everyone was really passionate in high school.
yeah, I mean, as I'm sure you know from like Instagram, I'm a big Shakira fan, and her Fijación Oral Volumen Uno cover where she's like it's like she's doing a little like Adam and Eve like Eve cosplay where she's like holding an apple is just like it's such a beautiful image. It's it's just like it's I still think about it.
You saw that and you were like, who is doing this and why can't I?
Yeah. Oh, actually, that was volume two. Sorry, bad Stan. But like Shakira cover art in general is always like I'm always been really obsessed with. And then in high school, Lady Gaga popped off, and that's when I was like, oh my God, like this is someone that's like actually taking it to the next level, and that was even more inspiring for me.
Yeah, because she had a lot of crazy visuals, right? Because there's a lot of artists who maybe the visuals are secondary,
Totally.
but like it's kind of disconnected. But I feel like Lady Gaga was like, visuals are really important to her.
With that like kind of dream in mind of becoming an art director at a record label, I got into FIT in New York City for graphic design, and that was also just an interesting time. I think that the reason why I went for graphic design is because I think that I kind of had to do like it was already pretty wild that I was like doing something design or artsy in my family. So like the fact that I like felt like I picked graphic design because it was something that people got paid for, you know?
I mean, that's true. That's true, especially when you were, I mean, you weren't, especially when you were leaving Chile to go pursue this, right? Like the stakes are higher just because you're kind of venturing a bit further out. And you don't want to pick something that you're not going to be able to make work, like make a living off of.
Yeah. But sadly it just like wasn't I mean I graduated. I did the thing. but it is something that like whenever anyone comes up to me and they're like, "Hey, can you make a logo?" I'm just like, "No, I don't want to. I just don't want to do it."
No, and I don't think that's that uncommon. Like, I feel like a lot, you have to really like making logos to be like in it for that. You know, it's like people who like typography. Like, you have to like typography. You can't just like casually make a couple letters here and there and be like, that's it, you know? So I feel like you have to be dedicated to it and have like a passion for it. Did you have a other major that you were between? Because I feel like when you're getting into school, there's always like this tension of like, what am I going to pick? And I'm always wondering how it happens. Because now it's like, oh yeah, I picked that. But
Well, I don't think that I was confident enough to know this about myself at the time, but like illustration is always something that like was has been calling me forever. And yeah, I don't think that there is a world where uh at that age when I like had to pick what I want to study that I would have picked illustration. And yeah, that's like more of like that's a different discussion about like just like what it is to like be an artist and like my I've had a whole journey with like drawing and the whole like question, are you talent, like do you need to have talent in order to draw, like that whole thing has been a big issue for me.
issue.
But
Okay. Okay. I want to know more about this.
yeah.
What is the like lingering doubts that you have here? Because now that you've come this far, it's like very easy to be like, Cristo, you have a ton of talent. Like, what are you talking about? But what are the things that kind of that you're haunted by?
Well, thank you. I have to say I'm not haunted by them anymore because I've kind of like learned to like live with them a little. But I mean I will say that like even when I was like in Tumblr and stuff, like a lot of the work that I was doing, and granted I don't know, I think it has a lot to do with my confidence and like how I just didn't feel like I was talented enough or like I don't know. It's mostly about talent, I think. But when I was doing my Tumblr stuff, a lot of it was traced, and I felt like there was like something inherently wrong with me because I was tracing stuff, and like I would get people telling me like, oh, like it's a good tool, blah blah, and I would just still not believe it.
I mean, this is so common. This is such a thing, I think, especially when you go to art school, because especially in art school, you have professors being like, no, and you have peers who like are naturally like perfect, realistic like can draw realistically, like out of thin air. And you're like, what's going on? It really kind of implants that self-doubt in you. But I think like you're saying, when you're working on fandom stuff, like creating likeness that has to be exact, right? Like you can't draw Beyonce and have it look like Beyonce's cousin. Like it has to look exactly like Beyonce. Tracing is just gonna be the sure thing, especially when we're talking about digital media where it's like pretty fast, right? Like you don't have like 5 hours to like render Beyonce by eye when it's still gonna be like a GIF, right? Like it's not like you're creating this like painting that's like 20 by 20 or whatever feet. So it's very specific.
Yeah, and it's some point something where like it bothered me so much that I was like, okay, I'm gonna like stop tracing and I'm gonna like learn to draw from scratch. And I took workshops and I took like life drawing classes and like it did help. I mean, I can do it now. Doesn't mean that I enjoy it more.
But it's not
Like,
fun. That's not the
it's
fun
not.
part. The fun part is not like being able to draw Beyonce like from a photo reference. The fun part is adding your style to it.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that was also there was a little bit of a learning curve there as well for me because it was like, is there something bad that someone else can grab that photo and trace it and do something similar to mine? Um,
Ooh, fascinating. These are all fascinating questions and things I've wondered too, right? Because I also made fan art on Tumblr for a bit because like why not? And even like last season of the show, I had guests and I would do portraits of them. And for a while I was like pushing myself to do them. Like just draw them, like not tracing. And then eventually I traced them because I was like, I don't have time for this. And then I didn't trace. I was having a lot of internal conflicts about tracing as well. And so many of my friends were like, just trace it. Like you can do it, but why would you do it?
Totally. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I do believe that no one is going to trace it the same way, even. Like,
no,
I
it's
think
just
that
like a tool.
Exactly. But years later, I learned that, like.
I know. Yeah. You do go through this whole life cycle of like, you start tracing and then you're like, tracing is bad. And then you're like, tracing is okay. And then you're back to the beginning. You're like, why did I do that? How do you feel now seeing people trace?
Yeah. I mean, I have no issues with it. And I do think it's a tool. I think that I think that was the question, right? Like whether if two people were giving the same photo and they were told to trace it and like make art with it, and my question was like, oh, like would it look the same? And is it bad that they're using the same reference? But I just don't think so. I think that everyone has their own like stamp in their art that it's going to come through,
Yeah. And then, but we're not talking, the other thing that I always am mindful of too is like copyright.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, so now these people who are listening, this is not freedom to like go trace everyone's work and call it your own. You do still have to be mindful of that. And we're not lawyers. Well, your dad is one. Get him on the line.
Yeah, he's not a copyright lawyer. I feel like I don't think that would help. But I have had a cease and desist in the past.
Everyone's biggest fear with tracing.
Yeah, that happened to me.
Can you tell us about it?
I absolutely can. It is kind of a great story because it was a full circle moment for me.
Let's do it. Let's get into it. Tell us about your cease and desist tracing moment. Everything. I need to know.
So you mentioned Beyonce, and I'm sure that you did that intentionally because I did do a lot of like Beyonce GIF art. And so I was making a lot of GIF art from Beyonce. I mean, this was when Lemonade was out, and I was standing hard.
We all were.
We all were, as you should. And I started making shirts, and I started making pins.
The way you say it with like a side eye, like maybe.
I mean,
okay.
It is. It's. I don't know if I don't recommend this really. Like because this is I was kind of like asking for it at this point, but
yeah, because you went from fan art to like full on merch.
Absolutely. So my Etsy store had pins and shirts and stuff of like different like pop artists and like pop culture moments. And I had a Beyonce t-shirt that was the stylist for the show Insecure on HBO. She reached out to me and asked me for some t-shirts. And I sent them to her, and Issa Rae like wore one of my shirts in one of the scenes. It kind of snowballed into this thing where like it was just like I was selling a lot of t-shirts, and every day I'd wake up with a little bit of angst, like, is it gonna happen? Is it gonna happen? And then it did. My cease and desist. And I obviously like pulled all the product and like but yeah, I mean, it's like,
I mean, that's everyone's fear, right? Is like getting caught by the artist and they don't approve of it. And it's not necessarily that they don't even approve of it because maybe Beyonce's team was down, but it's just like, encroaching on Beyonce stuff, right? So
I'm stealing her coin.
Yeah, you're working. The reason people are buying it is for Beyonce. For the most part, for your interpretation of Beyonce, and Beyonce's like, well, what about the official merch? So I totally get it. What a drag, though. What a drag, because how fun. It's so fun to make like fan art and then people want it. Like, that's the thing. Like, people do want it.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is an interesting, like, dilemma, right? Because I do think that yes, it was her imagery, and I do understand the cease and desist in that sense because it is her imagery, but it was my design, and I like made a pattern, and like it was it was something original and not original.
If you're loving this conversation so far, I need to remind you that you can listen to the extended version of this episode over on the Draws in Spanish Patreon. On the Draws in Spanish Patreon, you can access exclusive rewards like joining our Discord community, getting to know the next guest for the next episode in case you want to drop any questions, and listening to extended episodes of every single episode of season 2. So if that sounds good to you and you want to get in on that, then head over to patreon.com/drawsinspanish. And if you don't have the means to join the Patreon right now, I totally get it. I understand. But remember, you can support the show for free by subscribing to the show on YouTube, following the show over on Spotify or Apple, and just sharing an episode with your friends. That really means so much to me. So thank you again for your support, and let's get back to the show. Right. It's like the reference wasn't original, right? Because you're referencing her world, but the artwork could be argued that it is original. And there's actually, okay, I mentioned this with somebody else, so now I'm going to look it up. The Supreme Court meets Andy Warhol prints and a case that could threaten creativity by NPR. I'll leave it linked in the show notes. There's like a court case. I don't know if it's finished yet or not, if it's been decided, but about Andy Warhol like painting a picture of Prince based off a photograph that a photographer took of Prince. And then that photo, no, not the photo, the painting got put as a Vogue cover recently. And it's like, does the photographer deserve to get paid because it's his photo that was referenced, but Andy Warhol changed it by 10% or whatever that arbitrary percentage is? I'm not a copyright expert. So it is very like nuanced and confusing. And the gray area of it all lets you do it, but also like doesn't say that it's totally okay.
Well, yeah, and I think that my kind of take on it at the end was like, I'm grateful it was a cease and desist. Like I think that it'd be what I was really scared of wasn't the cease and desist. I was really scared of a lawsuit. Like that's a real scary thing because yeah, sure, I'll pull it down and that it was fine. But yeah, and
you should frame that cease and desist.
Yeah, I mean it's come full circle now that I work for Beyonce's record label, and like I've like made animations for
years of creators. It's all Beyonce animations.
I worked on the lyric videos for Renaissance.
Perfect. I know I saw it on your Instagram. How does it feel for you having gone like from making Rogue fan art, let's say, and Rogue fan merch to creating and working directly with the labels and with the artists? It
feels different in the way that it's a different intention, right? Because when you're making fan art, I think that for me, it comes from like a fangirl inside me, that just wants to be fed and wants like content, and when you're working on the record label side, like you kind of have, it's different. You like have a brief and you have to think about deadlines and, it's not as simple as just like a whim of a fan art,
And you have to like honor the artist's brand and the artist's vision versus with fan art, you can make it as interesting as you want.
Absolutely. And you're with fan art, you're the only one that's approving the art. with the record label side, there's many approvals,
Yeah. Have you ever, because we're here, have you ever had an artist or an artist team kind of deny something that you really loved and you're like, no, this is perfect. This is perfect for you and you don't know it?
Yeah. Many times.
Many times. Okay. How disheartening. Because with fan art, the thing is that maybe they will never see it. You don't know what they think of it, right? Like you have no connection. So can you tell me about a time where you created a piece of fan art and it was acknowledged by said pop culture person?
It actually just happened today. The most recent example. So I my illustration kind of journey has kind of led me into 3D. It's something that like just makes more sense in my head for some reason. Like, and I've been like playing around with like more 3D stuff, and I saw this meme on TikTok, like a month ago, of someone found a like image that Eminem's did of Lisa Rinna like in the red carpet with like a microphone, and it's like a Lisa Rinna Eminem.
With like Joey Fatone, I think it is.
Yeah, there's
They're
also a
both
Joey
like on the
Fatone,
on the red carpet as M&Ms.
and it's like it's become like a thing on TikTok, and like I love it. I don't know why I love it, but I love it.
Because it's absurd. It's absurd. It's like capitalism just doing so much. Like, why'd you have to make her an M&M? Like, she couldn't just be eating an M&M like anybody else. She is the M&M.
But and I also love Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, so that's another thing. And yeah, so I like kind of challenge myself to like make a 3D model of this like uh CP3 M&M, and yeah, so I like finished it yesterday, and I posted it, and Lisa Rinna reposted it this morning.
Amazing. How did that feel for you? Tell me
I mean,
about
it
it.
feels
You
like
woke up, you opened it.
yeah. I mean, I was just like, why are people liking it? And then I
Ah,
saw, and
oh my gosh.
yeah, I mean, it's like super satisfying. It's not something that like I like don't want like my ego to like be too fed by it, because it's like it shouldn't be like something that I want necessarily. Like I feel satisfied just by finishing it. But yeah, it's just like weird.
That is like a really good point to make. Like, you are making the fan art for the culture, for everyone, right? Like, it's for you, right? You get the satisfaction of creating it, right? You were able to use your 3D skills. You had fun, like goofing around playing with it, because it's funny. It's a really hilarious, just meme trend, and then everyone else enjoys it, and it's only like the cherry on top that, she enjoyed it herself. But that, you're saying it's not what you're after, right? It wasn't like the goal of creating this, because then that kind of can put you in like a twisted like mindset.
And it's a mindset that I think I've been in the past. Like I think in my Tumblr days, I feel like that was kind of what I was like hungry for. And yeah, it's just like I kind of had to shift priorities there, 'cause that's I don't know, it's just not healthy, I feel.
Why do you think it's not healthy?
Yeah, because I feel like you're first of all, it feels like you're just pumping out content that needs to be, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like the way the intention that it should be. If that makes sense. Like
It feels disingenuous.
kind of, yeah. A lot of the times, like these things go unnoticed. Like it just feels like it feels a lot more satisfying to kind of have the onus be about yourself and about like your journey and like how you kind of grow as you create these things. Because like I like learned how to like make 3D hair doing this, and I was just like, oh, I like do this now. Like
Right. Okay.
so yeah.
And have you ever felt like, and I think this is a common thing, just being an artist online nowadays, have you ever felt like you were letting likes dictate the work that you were making?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell
I
me
mean,
more.
it's like embarrassing to kind of like be so open about it, but I like honestly, it was that's why like I felt even just like the it felt nice to get rid of like the pop estate name, because that felt like so tied to like that kind of intention that I had
Like, the work was being validated and dictated by the likes.
by the likes, and I felt like it came to a point where I was kind of like chasing the likes a little. And I was chasing the virality of things. And that again is just not healthy to me anymore. And it even got so bad that it like also became like a money thing, because like I also had my store, and I was like, what's going to be a good product to sell? Like it just became this like incredibly capitalistic kind of like sick thing that I was doing. And like,
But I bet that there's people listening who are like, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, but I think it's a matter of balance, right? Like if you let it skew too much into being like viral chasing and kind of chasing things that are just going to make money, then what are you doing to feed yourself as an artist, right? So that's the problem.
that was like the part of me that I feel like I was completely like ignoring, was like the artist side of me that like wanted to like feel satisfaction by just completing the work. But yeah, I don't think that there's anything wrong with it, and I do miss having a store. Like it's something that I want to have in the future again. But I want it to be kind of on my terms and not in like likes in other people's.
Fascinating. That's so interesting, just because I think you're in a unique position, especially now that we're looking back at it, is like at the time that was new, right? At the time that was what was like new to do. And so you kind of didn't know any better. Being an artist online was relatively new.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was kind of, especially creating GIF content, which had like, was still kind of just new and emerging, and creating it yourself instead of like screenshots or screen grabs from videos and stuff. So it's like you couldn't have known what you were getting into until you were like sitting there with a cease and desist from Beyonce.
Yeah. Thanks for making me feel better about that, to be honest, because like that is a good perspective that I hadn't thought about. Like, yeah, it was like a very new thing, and yeah, I think I needed some space from it to be like, oh, yeah, that's not what I want.
And so, how did it feel to kind of put pop aesthete to rest? Because I went to go look for it now, and I'm just finding like random reblogs, like the original post, the OP is gone.
Yeah, I think it's on Tumblr. It's dead. It was kind of like that, like Taylor Swift when she did her Reputation thing. Like, sorry, she's dead. I felt like I did kind of mourn it a little, but now I'm just excited for like what's coming. I don't really think about it.
Fascinating. Yeah, I just feel like people think that they're tied to things that they make, and like that has to be you forever. Especially online. And I think you're a really good example of like, you kind of did it for as long as you wanted to. And then you were like, oh, maybe this isn't for me. And you let it go. And I think that's rare, because a lot of people out there are still pushing through, even though they're like, I don't know why, but I can't let this like Instagram go, or I can't let this Tumblr go, or I can't let this Twitter go, and just kind of never give themselves a chance to evolve.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very true. And I will say though, like, at the time, like watching like the follower account like go down, I was just like it felt like yes, but
Wow, I know that this is like common. I've heard it from a lot of people. It's like feeling like you need followers to be an artist, like to have a career as a commercial artist. How do you feel about that now?
I think that's true to a certain extent. I think that there's when you have more followers, you just have more of a chance to be in front of random people's eyeballs, But I also think that the internet is not everything, and like there's like industries that work entirely without being on Instagram, and like it's like a lot of word of mouth, a lot of like making good impression on like a certain gig, and then kind of people thinking about you. And yeah, I don't think it's everything.
That's beautiful, because I know that there's a lot of artists, especially starting out, who are just like, no one's hiring me because I don't have any followers. And it's like partially true and partially not true.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's a little bit of both. Like, yeah.
Like you need to get your work in front of more people. So maybe you need some more followers, but also sometimes your followers aren't the ones hiring you. Like other people just hire you that just found your work on your website or whatever.
A lot of the times they're not. Like, they're not going to be your client. They just like want to see your work.
Exactly. Would you say that the skills you learned in school are the skills that you use for your career today?
No. Like
Perfect.
flat out no. Well, actually, there is like a little bit of yes in there because I think graphic design you get taught um, layout, you get taught like composition, like those are all things that um, have stayed with me. But I, with like my like fascination with the GIFs, like I kind of got into the world of animation like really fast. And I'm still there. You know, I just like haven't looked back. And it's something that like yeah, as I said, like branding is just not something that calls to me at all, and like animation just does. You know, so yes, like it's uh it's not a thing that like that has helped me at all.
It's so funny because I feel like in college it does feel very like this is my degree, and so then I have to go work in the field. It feels very like you're on this track and that's your track. But once you actually graduate, you were able to do whatever you wanted with that degree. And for you, that happened to be GIFs and animation, uh, which is great. And I hope that anyone listening who's like feeling very kind of in a little box with their degree can see that you can do whatever you want with it, because it doesn't feel that way in the moment.
Absolutely, and I think that even especially these days where like YouTube is there to like teach you whatever you want to be taught. Like it's I've learned 3D entirely on YouTube, and like that's that's just like it's such a great tool.
It's amazing. I know. I went to school for advertising. And so I was taught like this much graphic design. And I feel like I learned illustration between YouTube videos and like Skillshare classes. This is not an ad for Skillshare. I know now, like you said, you've been exploring more 3D work. What made you want to go in that direction? Because it does feel like a really big jump to go from like Illustrator and Photoshop to 3D animation.
Yeah, that's a good question. So 3D has also always just like caught my attention. I It's just something that's always been in the back of my mind. It started with like the fact that yes, I wanted to like it actually even started with like GIFs because I was like, oh, like I want to make GIFs. And then I saw that my options were 2D like frame by frame animation, and I just don't have the patience for that. Like I have a hard time doing it. I can do it. I just like don't really want to.
It's not that enjoyable.
It's very repetitive. It started becoming more of a thing as I. It actually started more in my job at the record label because I was like doing a lot of like visualizers and lyric videos, and I like felt that it would be really good to like have those skills. So it started off there, and now I'm kind of taking it back to like my personal work and getting really into like character modeling and stuff like that.
As seen in the Eminem.
Lisa and Eminem, yeah.
Perfect, perfect. Okay. And I know we've been vaguely alluding to the fact that you're working now for a record label, but this is actually a really big deal because it's kind of the moment that you went from creating your own fan art to kind of going to work for the actual industry itself. Can you tell me a little bit about the process from going to like fan art and just like contributing to being kind of like the source of distribution, right? Because you're like now creating on behalf of these artists and brands. Can you tell me about just that era, that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I will say it was kind of like right place, right time kind of situation because I was at a job where I was doing Snapchat content.
So of the time, isn't it crazy?
It was a Snapchat Discover channel. And at during while I had that job, I that's when I started really getting into like the Tumblr things. And actually the fan art is what kind of helped me get into the industry because I think that when I interviewed, this was at a previous, this is my second record label job, the one that I'm currently in. The one before that, when I interviewed there, I feel like they saw the passion that I had for the industry, and like it's funny because the art itself didn't really translate, because it's fan art and like it was like very like line art driven, and like it's not something that I actually did ended up doing in that job at all. But I think that it helped show how passionate I was about it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Even though it's not like they hired you to create those things for them exactly, it still showed that you knew how the internet worked, knew how to make like a meaningful contribution to a community of people, of a fandom, right? Because that is something that I feel like you can't teach. Like you can't teach people how to be like fandom literate. And a lot of people aren't, and they're like forcing it. And that's where brands need the most help, and where artists need the most help is, I would say, like getting that connection and getting it right. So it makes a lot of sense that you were able to make that leap. How did it feel to like get that? Because it sounds far-fetched now, right?
Yeah, and it was far-fetched. Like it did feel like kind of crazy. I was just like, you guys are letting me do this. And it also was like they were like really wishy-washy with me, and like in the interview process, and it was like 3 months of me just like pushing and being like, how about now, how about now, and then eventually they're like, yeah, come in, and then it was like the final interview, and like I got it, like so I was insistent, and it happened.
And what was if you don't mind, what was the title that you got? Because I feel like a lot of people are interested in going into that, but they don't know like the kinds of jobs that they need to be pursuing.
It was a content creator role, which is like, what does that mean?
Yeah,
no one knows.
Vague today, but at the time,
yeah, at the time it was even more vague, I will say. Yeah.
Fascinating. So yeah, this just goes to show like you can make that jump. You just have to be persistent. And I do think it speaks volumes that you are still creating that kind of content on your own, right? Because you had a full-time job where you didn't have to be making GIFs on the side, right? It was just your pure drive as a fan.
Yeah, and it's something that I really enjoy, having like that kind of like side life, I'm in Gemini, so I like you are?
Yes, I am. I think actually our birthdays are really close together. I think yours is like
When's
June
your birthday?
18th.
19th.
Is that 19th? Mine's the 8th.
Oh, okay. All right.
Similar Geminis.
God.
Don't tell anyone, but I share a birthday with Kanye.
Oh.
It's sad now. I know.
That's not good.
I'm the new favorite.
Yeah, you are.
I love it. I also love fandom, and I feel like there hasn't been a really good place for fandom in a minute. I guess maybe Twitter. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I think that's a great point. I mean, I feel like I miss Tumblr sometimes.
Tumblr was so good for fandom. It really helped. I feel like maybe TikTok could be it, but the barrier to entry to join the fandom, to create content, is really high. So like you don't get like discourse as much as you maybe could on Tumblr. Maybe I'm just being old and...
Yeah, I don't know if I'm also in that like boat of like, am I too old for TikTok? But I will say like the humor of like TikTok is like really funny, and that's something that is really cool to see. But I do miss how Tumblr was so like still image and like GIF heavy, that like I just like I don't want to always have to make video content, even though I'm an animator. But like so.
Yeah. It just feels like it takes more work. Like it takes a little bit more work. But maybe this is why I think maybe we're old. I say us because I think the youths, this is a suspicion I have, they don't probably think making video content is that hard. Like it's probably like making an Instagram story. Like it's just like whatever. You just record whatever and add your contribution, add the little thing you wanted to say. So I don't know, maybe the young kids can enlighten us. But I do miss Tumblr and like the way that you could connect really quickly with people, and have like a threaded conversation with nuance, and like it would break off a lot. It was different than comments, because comments like just like comment and reply. but Threads were like really insane. So I fully agree with you. What was one fandom that you remember just being really passionate about? Because I still like love to join a fandom. It like brings me, I really feel like it enriches my life.
Well, I'm still deep in the Shakira fandom.
I love that so much.
And yeah, I mean, I think that, and I'm still also deep in the Beyonce fandom. I feel like those are my two fandoms that I'm a part of, and that I still was a part of in the Tumblr days. I do feel like that these days, like kids will like command the space so much that like if you're not like a Taylor Swift fan or a BTS fan, then like you're kind of like not part of the, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like those are the dominating fandoms. So maybe because they're the dominating fandoms with the youth, we're getting the most content, and so like they're just the most active fandoms, maybe. So they're more in our faces.
That's probably true. You do have to like seek it out.
You have to seek out your fandom maybe a little bit more, which if it's not being fed, like I'm really into Midnights this week, but I wouldn't say that I'm like a Swiftie. But I'm really into Midnights. But now TikTok has decided that I am a Swiftie, and it's like I can't escape it. I've become one. I can't help it. I know too much.
Well, and that's the thing. That's another reason why I also miss Tumblr is that like you were able to like pick who you follow, like on your For You page. Is you're like at the whim of an algorithm.
I know it's twisted. Which
is great, but it's also bad.
It's great, but it's also bad. When you get the perfect video, it's amazing. When you're just like, yeah, and I can't say it, but when Taylor Swift is being shoved down my throat, I just have to succumb. I can't do anything about it, but no, I don't want the Swifties to come after me, so I'm going to edit that out.
We love Midnight.
I love Midnight. I really do love Midnight. Okay. Now, would you still recommend getting into the music industry through creating fan art? Do you still think that's viable?
Yes. I will say yes. But there is like a little bit of a caveat there where sometimes like you kind of have to be like sly about it. Like I just feel like sometimes if there's too much of it, like it just comes off a little too fangirly, and it kind of like it's,
so you can't be too thirsty.
Yeah, I think there's something there, and I think that I've seen, and like we've hired some interns that like have like a lot of like fan art content, and like yeah, there's like a balance there, right?
And what would be your overall piece of advice for a graphic designer or an animator or an illustrator who's trying to get into the music industry, like the creative side?
I mean, this is like not great advice, but like be creative. Like, I guess I just like kind of take what you see and kind of like make it your own, because I feel like that's what is exciting to me when I see like if you are making fan art, if you're like doing like a twist on something, or you're like, I don't know, making a series of like album covers as horror movie posters, like stuff like that, where you're just like, oh, like that's interesting, like.
Got it. Put like a more conceptual spin to it, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I do think like concepts and like aesthetics are like king in the music industry, like and I mean that's always like what I'm looking for, and like what I'm striving for in my job is like having whatever I'm working on be part of a consistent package with like the album cover, and like everything should be like wrapped up nice. And so if you can do that but also do your own spin on it and like show what you've got, then I feel like that's something to look out for.
Perfect. Yeah. I mean, you're asking for a lot, but it does make sense that it's necessary. Like if I heard that advice, I'd be like discouraged, but I feel you. I think it's just really tough to like add something. You have to really like bring something besides being purely a fangirl.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Sorry to everyone that I've discouraged. Like, I don't really know. Not good advice.
No, it's just the truth, because I'm sure you're seeing a lot of stuff all the time, I'm sure, from different people. So you can't just like, especially when you're talking about big artists like Beyonce, it's like a lot of people are making fan art. So you have to really go the extra mile to stand out. So it's not surprising. And then would you say, now with TikTok, with Reels, we have all this video content, like we're saying, it's like, feels like videos everywhere. Would you say that having motion design skills is really important, not so important? Is it teachable? Like, where are we at with this? Because, there are people who are probably in graphic design programs that are maybe not learning so much of this.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's unfortunately becoming a thing. But like, there is so much, again, like on YouTube, like there's so much that you can look out for, and there's so many tutorials out there that I feel like it's it's something that's doable and it's something that you can teach yourself. But it sadly is a thing where like even in my team when we're like looking for people, it is like if you're an expert at stills, that's great, but there is
So how did it, right. Yeah. I mean, especially because everything ends up getting translated to video. Like every single concept eventually has to be made into some sort of video. And maybe if you don't have those skills, maybe you can't support the team as much as you could otherwise.
right. Yeah. There's like a limit there.
There's a limit there. Yeah. And how big are these teams that you're working with? Because, as consumers, we just see like the rollout and it's like very tight. But we have no idea how long it's been in the works or how many people are working on it. So can you paint a little bit of a picture there for all of us that are just fans?
Yeah, it kind of depends. So in terms of like a timeline, it depends on like how lucky we are. If like and like if we have a lot of time to like kind of sit with things, then like that's great. But a lot of things like sometimes they're just like it's done and we just want to put it out. And in terms of like how many people are in my team, I'm part of the digital team. And we're like 15 people, I want to say.
15?
Yeah. And the roster of artists is like split between those people. So like not everyone is working on everything. Like us people that are doing content stuff are working on everything mostly. Um and then there's the marketing team, there's the radio team, there's like it's a lot. I don't even yeah, there's a team for everything. I don't think that I even understand the scope of everything, to be honest.
Yeah. No, especially when you're working at a big label. Okay. And then one of the things I wanted to ask you here, this is the final couple questions here. What would you say is your favorite Chilean saying?
So my mom is like from like the farm in Chile, and
From
like
where?
um from like I mean it's like close to Santiago ish. Latiguillo, I think is the actual name. That's where she grew up, and so I know like a lot of like dichos de campo, like a lot of like sayings. And there's one that is really long, and it don't really think it makes a lot of sense, but I love saying it, and it's cada uno con lo de uno, el martillo con la fragua, y el que no tiene el mate calienta el agua.
I don't know what it means. Tell me what it means.
It literally means like it's like cada tapita tiene
Like the tongue twister.
yeah, it's like it means that like each their own kind of. But it's just like so long and unnecessary, and like I love saying
It's just fun.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for teaching me a new one there. And then what would you say is your favorite Chilean food?
Ooh. Okay, so I feel like especially like Chilean food is like kind of like a tough thing because it's like we're not really known for our foods, like let's be honest.
I agree. And I feel like, people ask me this and I'm like, I'm not sure. I don't know what you're talking about. But there's a few things, though. There's a few notable things, but they're not like super original.
We're not, I mean, this is like controversial to say, but like we're not Peru, like Peruvians. Like they really know what to do, like
Yeah. We haven't cornered like a market. Like we don't have like our own thing.
empanadas, I mean, are the thing.
Some people say that Chilean empanadas are like, a lot of people in Latin America really like our type of empanadas, but the Argentinian empanadas are also good. But don't tell anyone.
They're really good. The beef empanadas from Argentina are amazing. But I love like an empanada de pino, you know, like it really is very nostalgic for me. I love like Chilean sweets a lot. Like a super ocho really goes a long way for me. Yeah.
I like vicios. They're just chocolate covered almonds. And then, okay, is there anything culturally from Chile that you wish was more common in the US?
I do feel like there is, I do feel like life is perhaps more relaxed over there. Like you have, and I don't know if I really like this more than dinner, but in Chile they have la once, which is like, you know, as you know, like it's instead of they don't have dinner pretty much, or they have like a small dinner, and at like 5 or 6 p.m. you like have like kind of like it's like a second breakfast. It like doesn't actually make any sense. And you're like randomly carb loading towards the end of the day.
It's so, like the opposite of intermittent fasting or something.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's not something that like I like would want to add to my day, but it is something that I think about fondly, perhaps.
Yes, it is really nice. Like it is homely, right? You're just like, oh, that's kind of nice. And and the bread at once is really good. And we don't have that kind of bread here.
Yeah. And pan con palta también.
También, I think that Chile might have like some of the top bread. Maybe bread is the thing.
Yeah.
Maybe bread is the thing. Sí. Bueno, Cristo.
I mean, en palta.
And palta too, yeah. Okay, thank you so much, Cristo, for your time, for your energy, for giving me all this amazing wisdom about the music industry, and for just sharing about your career. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This has been so fun.
That's a wrap for this chat with Chilean motion graphics designer Cristobal Saez. Be sure to follow his work on Instagram at XTOSAEZ or click the link in the show notes to find his Instagram so you can view his work and follow it over there. Now, before you X out of this, I have to remind you to subscribe to the show if you like this episode. Subscribing is free and really helps me out to keep making the show for you. Now, if you want to connect with other Latinx artists in our Draws in Spanish community, head over to my Patreon so you can join our Discord channel, access extended episodes of every single episode of season 2, and a ton of other perks. That's all I have for you. Thanks for listening to this episode. Hasta la próxima, amigos. Nos vemos el próximo martes. Chao.